Welcome on in, second hour of the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen. And I went ahead and turned on his mic. Ryan Lorensen joins us on the Full Court Press. Glad to have you on, our resident Utah State hockey expert. Obviously want to bring you on, probably more focusing on the relevant topic of the last few weeks. NHL coming to Utah.
Big deal, man.
It's something we've never talked more hockey on this show than the last couple of months.
Yes, very true.
It's the point where I was starting to research like the Arizona Coyotes, what are their players. I'm not very good at that research because I don't know enough about hockey.
Sure.
It's going to be a learning experience. But
good.
It's been certainly a really exciting time, obviously, for the state of Utah.
100%. And talking more and more about hockey, in my opinion, is probably one of the best problems to have as a sports radio host in Utah right now, because the future is so bright for the NHL, for club sport hockey, which is the only college level hockey right now. We've got Utah State, BYU, or not UV, Utah, UVU, Weber State, those guys are going to get a lot of attention, but now especially these players. And after the party that the Delta Center threw last Wednesday, I was there, and man, I've never been in a louder arena ever in my life, and that includes for concerts. It was deafening, the reception that these now former Coyotes got. Makes you want to run through a brick wall. They said that they're willing to run through a brick wall for the fans just based on the response and the reception that they got. It was an amazing sight to see. So
we had some of those guys in that organization later saying this was probably the best hockey moment of my life. And you guys didn't even play a game on the ice.
Yeah. No kidding.
I mean, this is the best hockey moment in your life, and you didn't move the puck around at all. But it's a very strong reception so far for this team. And when Ryan Smith first started talking about the possibility of bringing an NHL team to Utah, initially it was, at least my thought was, what kind of, for lack of a better term, infrastructure is there to support this? Lots of kids pick up a basketball and play in a gym or a church gym or something like that. So basketball, it's a sanctioned sport throughout the state, and we're debating, hockey versus Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, a lot of high schools have baseball teams. Even have some of the college teams have Division I baseball, who are very successful at what they do. But hockey didn't seem to have that same infrastructure. It's the only term I can think of. Pipeline, maybe that's a better term.
Sure.
Yeah.
But with the reception that we saw recently, that doesn't seem to matter. It seemed like people are excited to have this sport.
Well, I mean, a fantastic case study would be the 2017 entrance of the Vegas Golden Knights, right? Youth hockey exploded in Nevada with that. So, and I think that's a lot the same thought process for a non-traditional U.S. sport, right? Hockey is has very much been thought of as the Canadian sport for my entire life. Right, there's always these jokes about, it's Canadians coming to play on American teams, and while that certainly is still the case, there's a lot of American players that are really, really good. Take a look at Austin Matthews on the Toronto Maple Leafs, fantastic player, and we've got some great Americans coming to this Utah team as well. That it is what it is. Hopefully, it becomes a much less expensive sport to play, because that is the other rap that it gets. It's very much a rich kid's sport, because that equipment however important it is, it's extremely expensive compared to something like baseball, basketball, football, where you're paying, obviously you're still paying for pads in football, but
yeah, I think it's fairly comparative to football. But again, I don't know as far as hockey, 'cause there's obviously a lot of pads and helmets and things like that. I don't know how much is provided by teams for club sports and things like that. Probably not very much at all.
Well, it's the venue.
The venue is probably the biggest thing where people feel like, because there's a basketball court in every church up and down the state.
Yeah.
And in schools, we'll always have a gym too, even if you're outside the state of Utah. It's like 90% of young boys and girls at some point will pick up a basketball. They'll kick a soccer ball across a grass field. Even sports like lacrosse went up. But hockey, it seems like they have a bit of barrier of entry, but it feels like this kind of thing when you generate excitement.
Yeah.
Through a pro team that everyone loves, and they're all sporting logos, which, by the way, I do have to dock you points for this interview for wearing a Vegas Golden Knights shirt to a conversation about Utah NHL hockey. But
look, I'm going to defend myself on that point. Growing up, I was a big hockey fan. I floated around from team to team. The Vegas Golden Knights got announced while I was out on my LDS mission, so it was only natural that someone so close would be there. They're in the playoffs right now. It's not looking super hot for them, but got to support my team while I can. But trust me, come October, it's full steam ahead on the Salt Lake to be determined.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I feel like a lot of what Utah hockey NHL fans, like for people who were trying to pick a team, it felt like a lot of them jumped on the Golden Knights bandwagon because that's kind of the closest team. Or I don't know if Arizona was closer geographically, but Las Vegas is functionally closer. So it felt like there's a lot of bandwagon support there, or at least jumping on that team.
Sure.
I don't know if I want to call it bandwagon, but obviously now everyone seems like they're going to jump on the Utah bandwagon if we're going to keep using that term.
I mean, 6-7 years down the line, I feel like bandwagon is basically what it is, right? Especially for the defending champs of the Stanley Cup. Like, you're certainly jumping on a bandwagon, but
well, certainly their year one success really helped them generate a lot of fans.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And obviously something like that will more than likely never get duplicated again. But even taking a look at what Seattle has done just over the past couple of years, bringing hockey back to the Pacific Northwest in such a huge fashion. It's been awesome, and Utah's got a lot of really cool things to look forward to with that.
And the impression I've gotten, I've had to turn to other people's opinions because I'm not versed enough to know, but the impression I've gotten is that this Utah team will be bringing in the Arizona Coyotes. Not a great team right now, although I think they ended the season decently well. But it's very much a young team that has potential. They've got draft picks, and that seems to be the tension. Basically, the Jazz, but maybe not quite as bad as Jazz were this year.
Yeah, sure. I will say, and this may give you a little bit of sticker shock. They finished with the 27th best record in the NHL out of 32 teams. So tough. But that said, that tells you a lot about the competition that's in the National Hockey League right now. There's a lot of really great stuff going on, and you need more than just young players. You need some veteran presence, things like that. But on that topic, General Manager Bill Armstrong has 20 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 3 drafts. So he's not only was he setting up Arizona's success, because we inherit all that, we get that. So
and I think it's like 5 or 6 picks in the first 3 rounds of like this year's draft.
I think so. I haven't gotten an exact number like that, but that sounds about right. And speaking of this year's draft, Utah's got a 7.5% chance to win the lottery pick.
And I'm gonna tune into the NHL lottery for the first time ever. So
yeah, exactly.
Make sure I tune into that just to probably be disappointed because lotteries have never gone the way of my team. It feels like, but. We can hope.
So the San Jose Sharks are in first with that and an 18.5% chance. I'm not sure what any lines or favors are, but 18.5% being the highest. It's anybody's game this year.
Yeah, it's about what the NBA is kind of. They used to have like a 25% chance for the first team, but a lot of those lotteries they flatten them out because they don't like tanking.
Right,
so.
trying to discourage running to the bottom.
Don't know if it really helps.
Yeah, but so we've talked about like the potential for this team to build, have a youth movement with future capital. They'd have a lot of money, from what I understand, in salary cap, so they can go out and get players, acquire established players. But what about the players that are on the roster now that will be playing on the ice in Salt Lake City next fall?
Yeah, I've got a couple of names. First one you're going to want to watch out for, their leading scorer and the only former Coyote to make the All-Star game this last season, Clayton Keller. He's 25 years old, still pretty young. Already a 4-time All-Star, including this most recent appearance. He played in 78 games last season, was good for 33 goals and 43 assists on 76 points. Something that I noticed, too, just on that note, there was not one player that had more goals than assists. They love to share the puck and create scoring opportunities. They're not someone that's going to rely on like a Mark Stone or an Austin Matthews or a William Nylander or something like that to do their scoring for them. They want everybody to take advantage of the chances that they're given.
And then the head coach recently asked to coach the Canadian national team. That's a pretty significant honor.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he coached the most recent one as well for the junior championships as well that won the gold medal, or at least got very close. So huge potential in the coaching department, in the player development department, just across the board. And I mean, I'm gonna get the elephant in the room. Playing in front of 4,500 fans every night for 2 years, that's rough. Coming into somewhere where you're going to be playing in front of 15, then 16, then 17, and potentially even more thousand in the next 3-4 years is huge.
Yeah. So as far as venue, obviously it feels like it's going to be a rockin' stadium because across several different sports, Utah fans have a reputation of they come out, they show it. College football, two of the best college basketball venues are in the state of Utah. RSL gets a lot of people. Although one thing with the Delta Center, I guess the thing I've heard a lot about is sightlines.
Bad sightlines.
A lot of things like that. So it feels like they're not going to have, 'cause I think the Delta Center for basketball can seat, was it 16?
Just a little over 19.
19, yeah. But obviously not going to be that number. I guess just how much does that impact the hockey viewing experience? Because I've not experienced, I don't know if you've been to one of the NHL games they hosted there.
Frozen Fury or whatever they hosted.
How much does that play into, especially because that's going to be the reality for them for however long the renovations take, whatever the timeline is for that. Just how does that impact things?
Yeah, so from a player experience, hardly at all. Obviously, you're going to have some players base their movement and placement on depth perception, as they should. So looking into like a corner and seeing just a blank space instead of fans there is going to be tough. But it's mostly going to be impacting from a fan-sided perspective because, you're going to get this, what you think is a great seat, but in reality, there's this huge drop-off right before the ice, and then, you may not see everything down in the corner or, what have you. I'm not exactly privy to the details, but it sounds like Ryan Smith's got some pretty cool stuff cooking up for some immediate renovations on the Delta Center.
Yeah, I know there was one picture I saw, and I can't remember if it was from the last time they had the NHL or the Frozen Fury, or if it was like when they're putting the ice in for the pep rally celebration thing. I don't forget what they called it, but you couldn't see the goal on your side, and it's like, that's not great.
No,
that's not great.
No, it's not. But luckily Ryan Smith's got some immediate solutions for next season, as well as things cooking in the pipeline for the next couple of years. So. Fans have a lot to look forward to, but it is going to be a work in progress. The way that this happened, getting the Coyotes to Utah, was a fast process in and of itself. The first time that conversation happened was on March 6th, according to Commissioner Gary Bettman.
And that's
lightning fast.
Yeah, I know
it's
Arizona's
crazy fast.
The Arizona situation has been spiraling for a while, but yeah, it happened like that. We had someone on our text line 533 had a comment where he says, NHL Utah has quite a bit of cap space available. And he says it would be interesting to see Sam Reinhart or Jake Guentzel here in Utah.
Gensel.
Okay.
Gensel.
I'm going to have to learn a lot of these names.
Oh, yeah. There's some doozies for sure.
Well, it's a lot of hockey or Eastern or Canadian. Well, Canadian names aren't too hard because a lot of times they're English, but it's Eastern European.
Eastern European, some Finnish names.
Yes.
And
Nordic.
Sweden.
Yeah.
all those.
100%.
But yeah, I guess cap space kind of added the draft picks and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the future seems like it's in Utah's hands. It's just up to them to figure out what they're going to do with it.
The hard draw, I feel like, for the Arizona Coyotes is before they were in Mullet Arena in Tempe, they played at Gila River Arena, and that was a normal-sized NHL arena. There was just whatever drama happened there. I don't know exactly what all the details are. I've got rumors, but it's a moot point. And veteran players were totally fine to go play there, but as soon as they got into that 4,500-seat arena at Mullet Arena, that was a hard selling point for a lot of these veterans like Jay Gensel or someone who's played in Arizona before, Phil Kessel, right? Like, that's a hard selling point because Alex Meruelo, I think that's how you say his name, he was bleeding himself dry trying to keep that team afloat there, and now that the team is in something a little bit more suitable to the NHL, it's gonna be awesome to see some of that big, huge NHL talent here for 82 games a year.
Yeah, and just the energy. It's another great Utah venue for sports. So at least once it gets renovated, it'll be iffy for a second, but it'll be loud. That's the key. Is it gets loud.
It'll be rough. It'll be rough making that transition for the Delta Center to get to where they can host both basketball and hockey.
Yeah. The biggest key will be timing it so that you don't have to have either the basketball or hockey team
play elsewhere.
Yeah, play in. I don't even know where the hockey team would. I guess they'd go to the
Maverick Center.
The Mavericks. That's
the
pretty
closest
much it.
thing. And I mean, that's 11,000 people, which is not terrible, but it's still not what Gary Bettman was. Yeah, it's not
caliber.
NHL ready. Exactly.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I found myself watching the Denver Nuggets and the LA Lakers last night, and they did a wide shot for part of it. And I'm looking at it like, this is an arena that can handle both hockey and basketball. And I'm thinking about arena alignments and construction and comparing it to the Delta Center. And it was like, I'm supposed to be watching a basketball game, but instead of thinking about how do you put a hockey arena in this one and the ice, and I can see how it slopes and probably have better sight lines. It was just an odd experience I caught myself doing.
Those transition videos, by the way, are amazing.
Well,
watching them transition
the
from
crew,
basketball to hockey to rodeo or whatever.
Yeah, those crews that do that, that's incredible.
Love it.
It's crazy to think of the stuff they do. We're talking with Ryan Lorensen, the voice, or at least one of the voices of Utah State hockey, and our resident friend of the show, hockey expert. One thing I wanted to ask, 'cause this is one of the things I'm most curious about, and I mentioned this before we went on air, but with all the college hockey teams here being club teams, there's not an NCAA sanctioned hockey team. How long is it until we see one of these like major universities end up with a Division I hockey team? So
first thing is that if we don't have one by 10 years from now, there's something going wrong with hockey in Utah. That is a hill that I'd be willing to die on. So 2034, by the time the Olympics are around, or supposedly going to be around, we should have an NCAA team. Now, my thought is it's going to either be Utah or BYU. That's first to the punch there.
I know a lot of people around here want to see Utah State get in that, but it just feels like there's just a few too many obstacles.
Yep.
A lot of it being Title IX, a lot of it just being funding for another
athletic budget.
That feels like those are your two biggest issues there.
Well, and then the problem is that a lot of those NCAA teams, there's a fair share out west, but they're mostly back east, and they've been around for who knows how long. There's Minnesota and Boston College / Boston University. All of those guys back east, they are powerhouses, and they will run it in the NCAA. But
it's like every year the Frozen Four. I forget what they call their Final Four. I think it's
Frozen Four.
Frozen
Yep,
Four.
nailed it.
It's like always Minnesota, Penn State, Michigan. Just go down the list of teams in that north.
Denver
northeast.
University, they won it this year.
Oh, did they?
They did, yeah.
I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah,
so I guess
for them.
Finally somebody west of the Mississippi and south of Ohio.
Now, don't get me wrong. Denver University is also a perennial powerhouse in NCAA hockey. So,
yeah, but I think Utah, we're supposed to be winter sports. That's our thing. Two Olympics.
100%.
We got to get a hockey team out here.
Now,
absolutely.
I don't know. This was sent in while we're discussing hockey, so I'm guessing this is hockey related.
Sure.
But 9952 sent this in a little bit ago. Some perspective, Utah scheduled over 6,000 officials for games for the 2023-24 season. The prior year was 5,300. This was youth and high school games.
That sounds like a hockey stat.
So I'm assuming that's related to hockey.
Yeah.
Or is that just high school in general?
Well,
or hockey specific?
That's what I'm not sure. So 9952, if you're still listening, if you wouldn't mind clarifying, is that specifically for hockey? I'm guessing it is because we're having a hockey discussion, and it was sent in while we were having
and we were talking about like hockey in high school and youth and whatnot. That was earlier in our discussion.
6,600 refs, though, man. That's amazing. That's a lot of man hours to cover these games for these kids.
It is
awesome.
It's a Herculean task to get that going. I know we have youth hockey here in Cache Valley, and it's growing. Well, from what I've heard, it's kind of been hard capped because of the availability of the Eccles Ice Center.
Yeah, it's only one ice rink that can only be there's only so many hours in a day.
That's for everyone who wants to use the hockey rink.
Right,
so,
for hockey or figure skate
or curling or open skate or whatever. Ice time is the biggest fight in Cache Valley right now. And luckily there's that not year-round open ice rink that they put in over at Lob Plaza, which will be nice for the winter. It'll help take some ease off of the Eccles, but we need at least a second sheet or a whole other rink entirely.
Yeah, just to feed all the mouths of everyone who wants to use ice for. Yeah. Again, there's a dozen sports to use it for.
There are some hungry mouths too. I was chatting with someone who now granted this was all very, very low key, but there's a guy who was talking about maybe bringing a college development league team to Logan
That'd be pretty big.
It'd be awesome. I don't know where those conversations have gone as far as any official capacity, but it was really cool to see that there is interest from people outside the Valley to even bring a hockey team here.
The USU club hockey team.
Yes.
We had you on near the end of the season.
Yep.
And just how did they end their season, and what does next year look like for them?
Yeah, so they unfortunately lost in the Wasatch Cup down in Ogden. I think placed third in that, which was unlucky for them. But they did win the Mountain West Conference on home ice, which was huge.
Yeah.
Got them into regionals on home ice, which was great. They won their first game, unfortunately lost their second game, and I've got my opinions as to why that may be. I'll leave that for speculation.
Yeah, I know. I think it was like a 3-1. I think it was MSU Denver.
Mm-hmm. And they're good.
Yeah.
Very good.
They're usually a really good team. It was another Denver team you beat in the early round, or was it?
Yeah, so we played for regionals. We played University of Providence, who is also very good, and that was a tough game to watch, to call, to do all of those things. That was a tough game to just be a part of. So glad that the guys came out on top on there. But Metro State Denver, we beat them last year for the final spot to go to nationals. So obviously they were on a bit of a revenge tour, but they were very, very good down the stretch, and unfortunately they were a little too hot at just the right time for Utah State.
So hopefully looking good for next year. I think it's going to obviously be hectic, and especially for a club team in the off season, because it's not as traditional as the NCAA sports, but looking good.
I think more hectic this season than most. Last year they hired a head coach. Things weren't quite working out. So he moved on only about 6 or 7 games into the season for whatever reason. He did not have any ACHA experience, which was I would assume part of the reason why he didn't leave, or why he didn't stick around. This guy that they have hired, he's from out of Minnesota or Wisconsin, somewhere up there. He's got like 9 years of ACHA coaching experience, which is a big difference.
Yeah, that's good.
So obviously getting the new head coach in, Stockton Jukes and I were on. We not the call per se, but we videotaped the prospect camp for him. So we got to see a little bit of some of that fresh blood coming in, who's going to be sticking around, that kind of a thing. So not super hectic, but they do have some holes to fill after last year's senior class.
Well, we'll look forward to it. We're gonna have to have you on a lot more often, not only for Utah State hockey, but as our NHL guy, at least until we can catch ourselves up to speed, because we've got a long ways to go to learning hockey and being able to talk about it. But I'm super excited about it.
Best way to do that, catch the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's 4 games tonight, 2 on ESPN, 2 on TBS/Max if you're into the streaming services thing. Keep an eye on all of those games. Download the NHL app.
See, I've been doing that. I've been watching a lot of, I've usually turned on in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I've been
pay attention.
I watch NBA games and NBA, then I'll switch over to the hockey games. So,
well, and it's a busy time of year, spring playoffs.
Based on how it started so far, who do you like to win it all?
New York
Rangers.
The New York Rangers. Yep. They won the President's Trophy, which is the regular season champion. But the favorite to win it is currently Carolina. The Carolina Hurricanes. But keep an eye on the Rangers. They beat the Washington Capitals 4-1. Vegas Golden Knights tied 2-2 with the Dallas Stars right now. They're the only one that will go to at least a Game 6.
Weren't the Golden Knights up 2-0 on the Stars?
They were, and then they took 2 games off of Dallas in Dallas, came home and absolutely stunk it up.
Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, because I watched parts of those first 2 games. I was like, oh, Vegas won on the road twice. That series is over.
And see, that's what we thought. That's what we thought too. But no, all of the other games are all of the other series are 3-1 right now. Check them out. It's the best way for you to learn hockey and get addicted quick, because
best time of the year to watch hockey.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
And my opinion is same for baseball in October.
Yeah.
Best time to watch baseball.
Yeah, once the playoffs start, the games get a lot better.
Oh, it's awesome.
But anyway, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on again. Like I said, we'll have to get you on later. We're overdue for a break. So again, thanks for coming on, and we'll go hit the break and be back after this here on the Full Court Press.